Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is April 19th and we're going to jump right into the news today. Some of it is current, some of it deals with the last couple of weeks and kind of trying to make sense of the connections between several things going on right now. So I want to mention, first of all, in relation to, we all know there's the big hype around the HRC and Huma video that is being reported that it is now available on the dark web, and that this is a really heinous video of very despicable acts by these two involving a minor, a girl, and we're getting around age 11 seems to be what's being reported, and that this did involve very heinous crimes against this girl. So because it is a dark web thing, I'm not going to get too much into the details of that. I'm going to urge everybody not to go looking to find that video. But we do need to insist that the officials in charge of prosecuting these people will have to witness that video and will have to prosecute for these crimes. Now, I think it's very interesting. Liz Crokin did report yesterday that Hillary was recently a guest at a organization that is known to be a witches' coven, a satanic witches' coven. And I want to emphasize that, satanic witches' coven, because there are folks out there that are pagans or like to study parts of the occult that are not Satanists and are not going down dark roads, casting spells and doing evil things to people. We are talking people who are actual Satanists who are pursuing a dark occult agenda. And this was what Liz Crokin was reporting, that that Hillary was attending in the last week. It became common knowledge, common news. And this group is called The Wing, and it's out of New York. They apparently have an Instagram page, and the founder is a self-described Satanist. Her name, I believe, is Lori Geldman, and she is the former partner of Terry Richardson, who's actually also a known pedophile and self-described Satanist. Okay, so these are the folks who Hillary Clinton's been hanging out with lately. And what I loved, what Liz Crokin was so good at reporting, is that True Pundit exposed the fact that Backpage is, thank goodness, right, for the executive order or the bill that was passed by Trump in early April regarding the taking down and prosecution of websites that are engaging in child trafficking and sex trafficking. And Backpage is the biggest page, backpage.com. And this has been taken down, and the owner of it, Carl Ferrer, has been prosecuted. He is the owner and the founder, the CEO of Backpage. He has pled guilty to sex trafficking. But when you understand the massive amounts of it, okay, this website operates in 97 countries, in 17 languages, in 943 locations. And not only that, but 73% of all trafficking cases that are reported, the ones that are reported, which we know is like this much of what's actually happening, 73% of those trafficking cases involve Backpage.com. And can you even fathom how that website has been able to function this long without being taken down, without every single notice on there being absolutely pursued, these people being arrested, these people being prosecuted? And this is the complete outlaw nation, the complete outlaw deep state world that we're living in. It is absolutely criminal and awful. And it shows how we, the people, are not protected, okay, by our government, by our police, by all these people that want to lord power over us. They are the same ones that make it almost impossible for us to protect ourselves, which is why we have to stand up for our own rights, and we have to become the protectors of our families, our communities, and expand out from there in ways that we can renew our communities and be protected from predators, both within our communities and outside of our communities. So the founder, Carl Ferrer, he was prosecuted, he was found guilty. He only got a few years, a very light sentence, but according to Liz Crokin and True Pundit, he has agreed to testify against others. Okay, and we know this is a massive, massive amount of pedophile perpetrators that Carl Ferrer is going to be able to give testimony against. This is kind of like Bruce Paddock. Bruce Paddock was much smaller fish, but he was, because of his interconnectedness with Stephen Paddock and the child trafficking that Stephen Paddock was involved in, we're seeing a pattern, just like Peter Dalglish, the guy who was picked up in Nepal last week. He worked for the UN, worked for the World Health Organization, worked in Afghanistan where pedophilia is exploding. This pedophile is also going to be able to give up tons of people. So people who think nothing's happening, I just want to bring your attention to this is happening. These people are being arrested and prosecuted, and the mainstream media won't report it. So this is a big yay and giant A+ for Donald Trump's team going after these pedophiles. Okay. Now, what also comes under this this mass corruption and endangerment to nations in human trafficking that came out of the executive order back in December on the 21st is things like what happened in Libya, wherever NATO countries go in and destroy the countries through these proxy wars, through these fake wars, these media created wars that absolutely have zero backing in reality, are completely military industrial deep state wars. This is about funding mass corporations that are completely the same as the people in the Federal Reserve banks. So whenever NATO goes in and invades a country, take Libya for example, what they then do is they round up all the people affected by that. They separate the women and the children from the men. The men are being part of this forced migration thing that's going on in Europe, okay, after having the country destroyed around them. The women and children are being trafficked, and the people that are injured, the soldiers that are fighting for the Assad country, for Assad's country in Syria, for example. What we've learned recently is that there's over 25,000 people since the Syrian war began who have been trafficked for their organs, okay? And there was a great expose on this with the Sargent report that just came out. And I'm going to talk about this a bit because what people don't understand is these wars are all about human resources, okay? They're about extracting humans for child trafficking, child sex trafficking, women sex trafficking, women's slavery, slaves, also male slaves, and then it's hugely organ trafficking, all right? And then it's the creation of this hatred between everybody and the absolute media cover-up of any of these massive, massive crimes against humanity that are happening. So if we look at this issue of the trafficking in Syria that's happening now, same thing happened in Libya, okay? Massive stealing of the resources, the gold, the killing of a country that was not owned by the Federal Reserve yet. This is the same fight in Syria, and both sides are playing each other. This is both NATO countries, the USA, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. Everybody is playing a side to extract resources, to extract human resources. Not to mention what's called the luge, right? The suffering, the mass ritual sacrifice suffering that is part and parcel of what feeds the elite bloodline families need for terror and despair and fear that they feed on. It's akin to the adrenochrome that goes in individual sacrifices, but there also is a tangible, readable substance of fear that is generated in an environment. It's what any pedophile feeds off of, that addiction to a fix that comes from terrifying somebody. But in the case of the pedo elites and the deep state military industrial elite complex, this is a mass fear, a mass terrorization of the world that feeds these elite families in their need and lust for power and control over masses of humanity. So what we have in Syria, so apparently since 2011, there's a count of 25,000 people whose organs have been trafficked, including adults and children, including wounded military, anybody wounded. So 18,000 of them appear to have been wounded. 15,622 people are reported by the Syrian Coroner's Director's Office, okay, the Director General of the Syrian Coroner's Office, reports that the Turkish police and others are bringing the injured from Syria across the borders into hospitals in Turkey. This is happening in Antalya and other hospitals, and their organs are being harvested. They're taking their livers, kidneys, hearts, I'm sure their retinas, anything that can be sold on the black market, which there isn't. The black market is basically just the market, okay? And that's what people need to understand as we get into these deeper, now that Trump's reopening the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, the reforming and taking away of NAFTA is being stalled out. These supposed trade agreements, they're about getting rid of regulations to identify where any of these things are coming from or what's happening. And it reaches into genetic science, organ transplants. It's getting very, very hard to determine between what is actual ethical medical science and what is this so-called black market. When you have things like 25,000 people's organs being harvested out of Syria since 2011, you have to wonder who is complicit in this, okay? And of course, there are medical facilities, there are major medical cartels that are complicit in this. And like I said, this includes military wounded, people wounded in these battles, in these attacks by all of the ISIS, Daesh, whatever you want to call it, Islamic State, all of these attacks, the US funded and backed attacks, the deep state funded, NATO country funded. So I really wanted to mention that because it's part and parcel of what we hear when we hear that, Backpage is going down, okay? The word's out about all of the human trafficking, the organ trafficking. We are seeing the deeper inside, dark belly. But why? My question is, Pedo Island went up in flames, okay? This video that came out about Hillary and Huma supposedly harming this child in a horrific ritualistic way, this apparently and supposedly was recorded, filmed in the tunnels on Pedo Island. Now then, conveniently, Pedo Island goes up in flames, and Q keeps saying, we have all the information, we have all the information, we have all the information. So if they have all the information, there is zero reason to not arrest Hillary. Okay, there's zero reason to not arrest her now because there's zero reason. And you can make up a million different things about all the deep interconnections of, the plan, trust the plan. But there is zero reason that if they have this film and they know where it took place and they have the intel from the NSA and others, why these people are not already in jail. you know, it makes zero sense unless it's just, oh, we're letting her think everything's going to keep going on while you keep entrapping people and keep entrapping people. We know the trolling keeps happening. We know the dragnetting keeps happening. But when it comes to things like this, with these evil crimes, they're expecting a lot of the people, the American people, and the people around the world in the know to sit and patiently wait while these people continue to walk the streets. So there's that awful news. Now, on a different note, I'm going to just go back into some things I covered yesterday regarding 5G, regarding intelligence to do with directed energy weapons, these things that are called silent weapons for quiet wars. These are weapons deployed against humans, especially in NATO countries, but worldwide. And I had a really great response on my from a subscriber who described this so well that I'm going to just read it straight out to you. Now, it's to talk about how all of this talk about surveillance right now, that's saying we're being surveilled, we know it's awful, it's coming out everywhere about Facebook, about NSA, all of the, all of the dumps around the surveillance and data collection and the total complete destruction of our Fourth Amendment rights to privacy. That's really important. But as this person made a very good point to say, the bigger part, and what I was trying to say yesterday in that interview, is that the bigger, more important part is not the surveillance, although that is awful, Big Brother, that is totalitarianism. It's completely and utterly has to stop. But what's behind it and not being talked about as much is the absolute mind control, nervous system control, body control that comes with 5G and the deployment of these directed energy weapons through space-based satellite systems. Now, this is coming. It's very important because you can be on the Trump train all day and night, but if these things aren't stopped, then it will be too late to resist it. And so that is why, as months pass, and we're not seeing military tribunals yet, but we're still seeing 5G rolled out. We're still hearing multiple thousands of reports of people being assaulted with directed energy weapons, with people with massive brain fog, with the smart meters not being able to resist them, with the LED lights in the street lights causing death to the animals and the plants all around. It's not to mention the constant geoengineering and the dropping down and of chemicals over us, lithium, strontium, aluminum, all nervous system disruptors, all ionizing things that ionize the atmosphere to allow directed energy weapons to work more efficiently. And then on top of that, we have biowarfare and genetic weapons that are coming through things like mosquitoes, things like the chemtrails, other insects, mice, rats. They're all carrying these biowarfare agents. And these things are not just biowarfare in the sense of some virus that's been amplified. These are synthetic agents. These are meant to disrupt our DNA and actually replace parts of our DNA with synthetic DNA to make us not 100% human anymore, and to completely, continuously alter our genes that then get affected by more factors carried by things like mosquitoes. So a mosquito might drop a payload of a virus into you that can be then operate in conjunction with that synthetic gene to then create a whole nother chain reaction. So I'm going to read this great analysis by one of my subscribers, and it's about the 5 eyes that Q talks about, and how this DO weapons technology is the real thing that's going on with these 5 eyes. The surveillance is almost a much lesser it's massive, it's huge, but this is even bigger because this controls our very minds. So the military and intelligence communities all over the world are working together to control society, okay? All over the world. These are all the big wigs at the top, all of the bloodline families. They're all interconnected. I don't care what country you're talking about. They are using technologies to oppress, surveil, and mind control populations. The US and the United Kingdom, along with its Commonwealth states of Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, have a joint intelligence operation called Five Eyes, which is what Q has been referring us to consistently, which runs its Echelon program used for gathering intelligence. Echelon is working with the NSA's Mainway and Marina to hack, steal, and store private information intercepted from telephone and internet communications and data. Okay, that's one end of it. There's also all the data collected through your, shopping cards, through your credit cards, through all the stuff you do using the online system that may not be just directly from your laptop, phone, or email. Okay, so all of that that's related to you also goes into this database. What you buy, where you shop, who you call, that sort of stuff. The NSA, which is headed up by Michael S. Rogers, George C. Barnes, Mark W. Westergren, Harry Coker Jr., and Ernest Green, is spying on everyone through hidden cameras and microphones in smart devices, televisions, and computers. The exposure of this criminal spying, which completely violates the Fourth Amendment and human rights, is also a distraction from their electronic harassment and nervous system hacking weapons, and this includes brain hacking. The information is stored in the Utah Data Center, where they develop psychological programs on civilians used for targeting, period, such as targeting individuals for psychotronic weapons attacks. All of this is entirely criminal. Echelon is being covertly hacked by the Swiss Onyx interception system, headed up by Guy Parmelin, the federal counselor of the Swiss Federal Department of Defense. I believe that Swiss intelligence agencies are working with Italy's AISE, France's Directorate General for External Security, headed up by Bernard Bajolet, and Germany's Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, or BVF, headed up by Hans-Jörg Mason. Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, or BND, and their Project 6 surveillance program has joint operations with the CIA, headed up by Mike Pompeo and Gina Haspel. The BND is a continuation of the Gehlen organization. Reinhard Gehlen was a Knight of Malta and Nazi who worked for the CIA after the U.S. military took control of Germany during World War II. The BND is located in Pullach, Bavaria, and I believe this is under the authority of the Bavarian House of Wittelsbach. Pullach was a Führer headquarters for Nazis, and the same land is used by the BND today. Dan Coates is the current director of national intelligence under Trump. Coates became ambassador to Germany on September 10th, 2001, under George W. Bush, and established a new embassy in Berlin and made close ties with Angela Merkel. Dan Coates is a double agent working with German princes, which run Germany's proxy government, which are also the same families that engineered the Nazis. Bonce J. Craddock is a former U.S. Army general who served in the 8th Infantry Division in Germany, where he received the Badge of Honor of the Bundeswehr. Craddock later became president of Military Professional Resources Incorporated, a private military company that was accused of participating in genocide in Yugoslavia. Tadeusz Kościuszko was a Lithuanian nobleman, American military general, and agent of the House of Wettin, now called the House of Saxe-Coburg, which ruled the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Tadeusz Kościuszko was the architect of West Point. Former NSA Director Keith B. Alexander went to West Point and was running the NSA from 2005 to 2014. Also, as far as Keith B. Alexander goes, he, as a graduate of West Point, has been linked to numerous pedo scandals, definitely has been named as an attendee of various pedo parties. If you go and read Joaquin Hagopian's book on pedophilia, state, and empire, if you go to, well, I'll link it below, but he specifically mentions, I'll get to the chapter that mentions Alexander as a suspect of pedophilia, and especially in the rituals within West Point and in the high-ranking officers of the U.S. military that is a huge in the trafficking of children. So Keith B. Alexander went to West Point and was running the NSA from 2005 to 2014 as they implemented and increased their unlawful spy programs, criminal intelligence gathering on Americans, and electronic terrorism. Now, if we go to Dan Coats and we wonder, well, what the heck? Why is Dan Coats currently our Director of National Intelligence under Trump? Why would he pick this person that was obviously a hugely George W. Bush related person? Not only that, but he used to be Senator of Indiana. Indiana sure does come up a lot. And he was, he took Dan Quayle's seat after Dan Quayle had to leave to be vice president, our really effective vice president, Dan Quayle. And so at that point, Dan Coats was appointed to Dan Quayle's Senate seat in Indiana, and then he was elected for another 6 years in the Senate in Indiana. And during that time, he was a member of the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Okay, this is 81 to 89. And then he later, he was reelected to the Senate in 2010. And then he didn't run for reelection in 2016. And one wonders, is that because he was being tapped for this position now? And he, of course, is succeeding James Clapper, who, according to Admiral Rogers, was suppressing all of the information about the FBI surveillance on the Trump team and the suppression of the investigations into Hillary Clinton and all of the DNC treason. So Dan Coats is being mentioned by this person who gave me this excellent synopsis as being very suspect in this double agent position with Germany. And so I'll continue reading the rest of this summary. The European Union uses Schengen Information System, which unifies European intelligence gathering. The EU Commission is headquartered in Belgium and Luxembourg, with Jacques Race, the head of Belgian VSSE Intelligence, and Patrick Heck, the head of Luxembourg's SREL Intelligence. The EU is based on the Treaty of Rome and was signed in Rome at Capitoline Hill. Jean-Claude Juncker, the president of the European Commission, is a Knight of Malta. North Bridge Services Group is an international private military company headed up by Robert Kovacic with Belgian associates. Russian Federal Security Service runs the SORM surveillance systems on Russian civilians. Israeli Mossad and the IDF's Haman run Unit 8200, and they run Luxembourg-based Intelsat satellite interceptors along with British Inmarsat satellite interceptors. These surveillance systems are spying on everyone. However, the release of this information from their agent, Edward Snowden, distracts, very important here, distracts from the fact that they are all running neurological hacking software where wireless frequencies and electronic emissions are designed to hack into a person's body and mind, okay? So folks with their iPhones, that's recording all of your data on your biology, okay? That's the tip of the iceberg, okay? That's the tip of the iceberg. Obamacare wanting to make all of your medical records public so that they can, deliver better health care, okay? That is the tip of the iceberg. The reality is that they are doing electronic hacking into your bodily systems and your brain function for a panoply of very nefarious reasons. They spray what are called chemtrails for various purposes like weather modification, but also to enhance their wireless and radio transmitted frequencies. So important, people, why everybody should be an anti-chemtrail activist. These chemtrails ionize the atmosphere to make what they're doing with the electronic control of our body-mind systems, our human selves, possible. Okay? So, the Department of Defense works with private militaries, organizations like Kratos, Defense and Security Solutions, which is involved with satellite communications, cyber warfare, and microwave electronics. They also outsource some of their criminal operations to private military companies like Northrop Grumman, L3 Technologies, and Lockheed Martin, among many others. They are using Genesis software, Neuron software, Brian software, and Nest software through the electronics which function through all operating systems like Windows and Linux. Genesis claims it is for a, quote, simulation of neural systems ranging from subcellular components and biochemical reactions to complex models of single neurons, simulations of large networks, and systems-level models. However, its simulator is a cover for hacking the human body. The satellite interceptor systems are also running similar programs which can target victims with radio and electronic frequencies. Merlin is a radio telescope system named after the wizard and managed by Brian Boucher, which is running biochemical hacking programs developed by the pre-Masonic members of the Royal Institute and Royal Society, which are covertly working with the Science and Technology Facilities Council. The USAF's HARP system is partly involved with radio targeting on members of society. Carl G. Jansky Very Large Array, located in New Mexico, and the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, based in Chile, are radio satellite systems also used for targeting. The Atacama system is an international project including Europe and the United States. Warkworth 30-meter radio telescope is a radio telescope system in New Zealand which is heavily involved in this targeting. The Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy runs its LOFAR, L-O-F-A-R, and Westerbork synthesis radio telescope systems used for targeting society with mind control frequencies. Dutch intelligence is called AIVD, headed up by Rob Bertholli. Haman is headed up by Gadi Eisenkot, and Mossad is headed up by Yossi Cohen, and they are involved along with CIA, Jesuits, or Roman intelligence, and SIS Masonic crown agents in overseeing and infiltrating Silicon Valley, which further enables electronics and operating systems to run neural hacking programs. There is a Silicon Valley, or called Silicon Wadi, in Israel around Tel Aviv, with the same companies that operate in Silicon Valley, California, like IBM, Cisco Systems, Motorola, Microsoft, and Siemens. Silicon Wadi and Silicon Valley are working together. The European Union owns the Human Brain Project. Say that again. The European Union owns the Human Brain Project, operating out of Geneva, Switzerland, which has helped to develop neurobrain computer interface in neurological hacking technologies and software like Genesis, which was developed by Jesuit-educated James Mason Bauer. They can literally plug their minds into these systems and target and terrorize people with a form of synthetic telepathy. And I have read dozens and dozens of these accounts from targeted individual survivors who have experienced voice-to-skull technology and are suffering from it. Some of them are targeted for their political or professional work they're doing to try to stop them. Other people are just normal people being used as experimental victims. The Church of Scientology, which is working with Silicon Valley, has these technologies. Criminals in Silicon Valley working with criminals in the NSA include John Hennessy, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, who just met with President Trump recently, Mark Zuckerberg, who just lied his face off in Congress, Jeff Bezos, who is destroying the entire economy with Amazon, and Bill Gates, who we know it just wants to kill off billions of people. Along with these programs, military and private military have developed various microwave, electronic, and pulse weapons used for covertly targeting members of society. All this is invisible to the eye and enables these tyrants to target people extremely covertly. So important, because you can just be sitting in your room one day and then all of a sudden things are completely different. You feel completely different. You have no idea why, but you have been targeted with these directed energy weapons. These are crimes against humanity. These systems need to be shut down, and these criminals need to be prosecuted. And in this instance of war crimes, they should get the ultimate punishment meted out by crimes against humanity. Now, this is a massive amount of people involved in this. And that's why my talking about the World Treaty to ban directed energy weapons is so important. Why the development of a statute to ban neurotech and electromagnetic weapons is so vital. So I'm going to put information where you can find out more about this World Treaty to ban neurotech weapons and to ban directed energy weapons. There are several scientists working on this, journalists working very hard, and it's an international team. So I will put that again up there. There also is a more news that is, I think, related to this that came out in this last month and over the course of the last few months is recently the EPA just cut off the deadline to get public discussion or public comment on the use of billions of mosquitoes in Florida. These are genetically modified mosquitoes, and they say, oh, they're going to go in there and they're going to kill the mosquitoes that have the Zika virus. Now, we know that this is a load of hoo-ha, and that they want to release these mosquitoes that have synthetic genetic payloads in them to get those synthetic genes into humans to aid in the continual modification of the human genome to be responsive to all of this electronic hacking that I just described to you. I want to thank my excellent subscriber who sent me that amazing information and put it in such a great way. And I also want to tell you a little bit more. There was a woman who was murdered just a few days ago, just a week or so ago. Her name was Mila Demir, DEMEIER, and she was a huge activist against GMO, mosquito, and biowarfare weaponry being deployed in Florida. And Florida has hugely been an experimental zone using mosquitoes, spraying, microwave weapons. The people, especially in southern Florida, especially in the Keys, get a ton of this activity. It's all documentable. It's been happening for decades and decades, at least since the 60s, probably even before that. But Mila Demir was found dead in a pool in Washington, D.C., where she had gone to put on record. She has a petition. She had a petition. The petition still exists, but she is now dead. So I will put the links for the petition to sign the petition to prevent the release of 3 billion mosquitoes in Florida that is due to come out this year. These mosquitoes, the people wanting to release these mosquitoes is a British biotech company called Oxitec, Oxitec, and this was supposed to happen in Harris County. So Mila Demir had gone with her friend Barbara Napoles up to DC around just before the deadline to hand over the signatures of her petition and to comment before the EPA about the mass citizen resistance to the deployment of this biowarfare. And she was found dead in the Cambria Hotel and Suites in the Washington, D.C. Convention Center. Now, this is what's happening, and she joins the ranks of all of these amazing people who are being executed for their activism against biowarfare, connected with AI, connected with transhumanism, connected with synthetic gene interference in the human genome. And now we have the European Union just announcing today that the European Medical Association now says that they've been doing it for 30 years anyway, no big deal. But now they're just above board saying that it's completely legal for them to do gene therapy using their CRISPR biotech, the CRISPR Biotech Institute, always presented as this wonderful gift for humanity. But basically what has been coming out is that this is synthetic gene replacement. This is not like, let's take your own genes and, before they were damaged, take them out of a bank and then put them back in your body if you then got radiated on. This is using synthetic genes to replace human genes. Now, this is the end of our God-given human sanctified body and trying to make us into a genetically modified crop, okay, or a genetically modified animal. All right, so this is what we must resist, and this is why we must resist chemtrails. We must resist the directed energy weapons. We must get over these little piddly problems we have with each other, and not be just Democrat or Republican. I vote neither, and not care about people's sexual orientation or their, whatever it is. We need to get over it and really, connect around these issues that affect all of humanity, and they certainly are an enormous threat to the Republic of the United States of America. And so along those lines, Hanford Nuclear Base in Washington also just announced that, yes, it's true, there has been, uranium dust going everywhere all over Southeast Washington for the last 3 decades. We can't hide it anymore. And so that was just recently released. And there's, in conjunction with what I just said about the woman, Mila Demir, who we should remember her name, who was killed for trying to prevent the release of these militarized mosquitoes. There also is this pattern of doctors being slaughtered. These are usually natural doctors, or else they work for the CDC. They die in very strange circumstances. And now we're up to 88 of them, I believe. The 86th one that died, he was a military, he was a Marine, I believe. Oh, he was a Navy commander. And he now worked for the CDC. And it looks like he was working for something called their surveillance branch of the CDC's Division of Population Health. Okay, he's been related to what's been called the nightmare bacteria, these virulent strains of bacteria that can't be stopped by antibiotics, and everything related to how that's caused with vaccinations and antibiotic abuse. But so the surveillance branch of the CDC's Division of Population Health, and his name is Dr. Timothy Cunningham. He was only 35 years old, and he was an epidemiologist. And basically, epidemiologists are people who basically just find out why different groups of people are dying, like what's making them sick. And it appears that he was related to intelligence agencies. He had worked with Ebola and Zika, and he is a Harvard graduate, Harvard PhD, and he's found dead after 7 weeks being missing, okay, when he left his home after being sick, supposedly leaving work sick, after receiving a promotion where he should have been happy, but apparently he was sick. He had sent text messages to his parents that were very disturbing. We don't know what they are, but they were really disturbing and suspect to the parents. He had also told his neighbors that if they had his number in their phone, they should get rid of it right away. Then he goes out, okay, but he doesn't have his keys, his wallet, his license, nothing. And his favorite, best thing in the world, his dog, Bojangles, is left at home. And now finally, about 10 days ago, they find him in the Chattahoochee River, which is only a half mile from his house, but he's in a really remote part. And of course, it's been 7 weeks, his body, but they can't find any evidence of him having had a heart attack. They're trying to claim, oh, he went jogging, fell in the river. And this is literally like a Navy commander, okay? And the Chattahoochee River, this is not, the Snake River in Idaho or something. This is like a very chilled out river. So this is happening to people such as him that come in contact with some information that obviously went wrong. And so whatever was happening with Timothy Cunningham, I give my respects to his family. But then there was another doctor that came in the day that they found Timothy Cunningham. Another doctor was found dead he was found dead, burned to death in a car that was parked in an elementary school in Michigan, in Howell, Michigan, or I think it was in Pontiac, Michigan, where the car was found. But he was a holistic doctor, and he had a son with muscular dystrophy. He was only 54, and he had, according to his wife, had left home abruptly, and then the next thing they find, his car's found burnt to a crisp, and he was inside. And interestingly, I'll just put out there, his license plate was Storm 24. So these are all interconnected, and I wanted to just give a blitz of that today. It's all interconnected. The AI, the transhumanism, the pedophilia, the luge production, the total enslavement of the human domain. This is so important for people to understand. And so I'm going to put links for you to look into these things further. And I want to thank my amazing, incredible subscribers. You all are so wonderful. You're such an amazing audience to have. I'm so blessed with you. I thank you so much. I want to thank everybody who lends very important, respectful comments to the channel and has the ability to rise above reactionary behavior, to really share respectful dialogue with each other. It's so important in this time where everybody is so we're so being pushed to just, you know, to lower our standards, lower our vibrations, lower our everything, to treat each other awfully. And I just ask that we rise above that and really be the thing that we want to be looking at. We want a community that is respectful, that honors each other, that respects each other's right to speak, and that we engage in a dialogue based on honoring humans, our fellow humans. So thank you so much. You are free. We are going to get free of this electronic mind control harassment. They're not going to entrap us in this simulation right before this great awakening is going completely worldwide. We're going to resist it. We're going to sign the petition to stop the mosquitoes. We're going to support the World Treaty to ban these weapons, these mind control weapons. And we're going to insist that those people that we are trusting right now with our energy and our support, that they are going to do the right thing and stop these weapons. And if they don't, we have to do it ourselves. We're living in this perception deception where everything around us, you know, David Icke calls it that so well, right? It's the problem, reaction, solution. It's always that both sides are working both sides of the problem, and it is a perception deception. We have nothing to do with these elite bloodline families that want to enslave us. Literally, us billions can turn around and walk away. We can do this, and we should be reforming communities that are based on volunteerism, okay, where we take responsibility for ourselves and lend a hand to help others that need help, but also do for ourselves what we can do, and then do it in community to create a different way of doing things. And that's what I think we need to do, is step away from this perception deception that tells us we are somehow beholden to these elite military corporate governments, and instead realize that no, we are the governments. It is we, the people, that is the republic, and we are the ones that, with our Constitution, absolutely have the right to run the world according to our Constitution. And we can start that right away, which means run in the midterms, independent. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to run Democrat or Republican and you're going to mess up the election. No, we have to start now, getting out of that duopoly right now. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much. If you want to donate, the links are in the description for PayPal. You can become a Patreon, and then there's also crypto links if you are on the crypto train. And I just thank you again. You are free, and I will see you next time, and I will add a blog with links. Sometimes it takes me several hours. Sometimes I can't get it up till the next morning. Hopefully tonight I'll be able to get the links up for this video within a few hours. You are free. Talk to you next time.